Good evening, everyone, and thank you to Professor Ramchand and the Friends of Biswas for inviting me. And thanks to NALISTT for co-hosting this very memorable event. I really enjoyed hearing the precious memories that the Naipaul family shared with us as well. My first interaction with VS Naipaul was, of course, at school. We read A House for Mr. Biswas for Sexy. And even then, with immature eyes, I found this story funny. I enjoyed it. I found it engaging, emotionally moving, and more importantly, true to life. So in the years that followed, the many years that followed since high school, I have bought that book and given it as gifts all over the world to people who have expressed an interest in reading my culture. However, I would say that it was not until I myself began studying creative writing that I came to fully appreciate the genius of Naipaul's writing craft. Whatever people may say about him as a person or a man, I think his genius is undeniable as a writer. You see, for a young writer, there are countless lessons in Naipaul's early fiction. I'm talking about works like The Mystic Monsieur, Mimic Men, Suffrage of Elvira, and of course, Miguel Street. The most notable such lesson for me when I sat down to compile my first book was Naipaul's gift for crafting communities. He doesn't just use Trinidad as backdrop or setting in his books. Rather, what he does is he chooses some locale or he invents a locale. And then he kind of summons forth the spirit of that place in such a way that the community itself becomes a character in the story. One of the techniques Naipaul uses in this regard is that he creates at least one formidable, larger than life, unforgettable, tragicomedic character and places them at the very center of village life, like a standpipe then. And by showing us how others in the village interact with this village stalwart or relate to this person, he manages to illuminate all the loves, hates, hopes, prejudices, and politics of a particular community. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have no shame in saying that that is exactly the technique of Naipaul's, which I endeavored to emulate in my own work, Pleasant View, with the character of Miss Ivy, the village seer woman. And so now I pay homage to Sir VS with a short excerpt from Pleasant View. Is about my Hezekiah. Agneta's voice was somber at the dining table now. I overheard him last night. He any friends in the bedroom? Who? Miss Ivy asked. Oh, yes, your grandson. I so accustomed calling the child Silence like everybody else. I just forget he have a real name, yes? What happened to he? He get a walk with Mr. H, new campaign manager. You know who that is, right? Miss Ivy shook her head. You know him, man, a Indian fellow. He owned the fruits place up in the junction. Plenty horn or horn plenty or something so. He used to be a big UNC man till a couple weeks ago. I hear he was even going up for election against Mr. H. But he get catch in some whorehouse scandal, so UNC pull him off the slate. Group he named. Miss Ivy's mind flipped back to little Jabari's story. Anyway, Agneta continued, Group switch sides. He turned P&M now. And Silence and them boys been working with him in Mr. H campaign office. At first I was glad. I say Silence might meet somebody to fix him up with a good steady work instead of just liming with them fellas, thieving fruits and selling them by the traffic lights. But you know what, Jagu? That stink so-and-so asked my quiet, gentle grandson to do? What, girl? Miss Ivy asked. Leaning so far forward, the front legs of her chair began to complain. Jagru picked up the boys yesterday and carried them for a long ride in his fancy truck, like he did want privacy now. He say, since UNC shame he and his family, they must lose this election. He say he have a plan, and Agneta began to sniffle and shake her head, as if she couldn't bear to explain further. While she waited, Miss Ivy clucked her tongue, offered Agneta napkins from the plastic holder on the table, and wondered if her friend knew the talk on the street about silence. That he wasn't such a quiet, gentle boy anymore. That he sold something other than fruits now. That he'd recently become a foot soldier for Lost Boys gang. Or was Agneta just like all the other Pleasant View mothers and grandmothers, playing deaf and dumb until they ended up on the news crying, he was a good boy, you know? Agneta continued in a shaky voice. The big PNM meeting is next week, the 15th. Jagru paying them boys to shoot at the stage while Miss Sage talking. Not to kill him, just to frighten everybody. Jagrup said go look like his UNC put a hit on Miss Sage and everybody got turn against UNC and vote PNM. Oh God, oi. Miss Ivy felt as if the short, kinky hairs at the base of her cornrows just went dead straight. What the hell is Jagrup fella trying to do? Start a war? Suppose they miss and the bullet catch Miss Sage. Miss Ivy had spent her entire 68 years inhaling the rancid drain water of West Pleasant View. She had lived through more elections and more funerals than most people in this overgrown scrapyard of a town. But Miss Ivy couldn't recall, in all her years, a single instance of someone being shot for political reasons. That is why I ask you to walk with your cards and everything, Agneta said. I so worried about silence. She began wailing. Miss Ivy wasted no time. She dug into her purse for the cards and began a long, vigorous shuffling. Her upper lip perspired and the deep furrows of her forehead slipped down to become a visor over her eyes. Silently, she begged God to grant her the gift, just this once, to really see the future. This wasn't some domestic who's sleeping with who bacchanal, her usual fortune-telling domain. This was serious. This could be life or death for either Miss Sage or Agneta's grandson. You have anything belonging to silence? Something personal? Miss Ivy asked. Agneta, veteran of these rituals, was ready. Look, she replied, I take this from the drawer. It clean. From the pocket of her house dress came a pair of jockey shorts. Eggplant in color with white piping. Miss Ivy sprinkled the underwear with holy water from a tiny bottle. Then she closed her eyes and began a rolling chant. Oh mother, oh mother. Mother India, oh mother. Mother Mary, oh mother. Mother Earth, oh mother. She opened her eyes and grabbed up the deck. Agneta gasped. Miss Ivy began flipping cards expertly, making a snapping noise as each left the pack. At the first king, she stopped, studied the card, and nodded. Pleasant View people loved face cards. Yes, she'd milk the face cards for Agneta. She flipped again until a queen, then another king. Miss Ivy had enough for a story. She slammed the pack down. That's it. The Queen of Hearts, a woman, will come between the King of Diamonds and the King of Spades. The first king is Mr. H, the money man. Then, you see how a spade shaped like an upside-down heart? That second king is Jagrup, deceitful. But don't worry, silence ain't showing up nowhere in these cards. He's safe, like Jesus' briefcase. Thank you.
Wow.